Welcome to Kilobytes, the series where we discuss characters who don't get as much screen time, but who we'd still like to spotlight. I'm Fadzai.
And I'm Sandile.
And today we'll be discussing Nadia Petrova, which I tried to say with an accent, but I'm probably not saying it the right way. I apologize to any Bulgarian listeners who might be listening.
Out there, we're very sorry.
Or any Czech listeners, because I believe the actress who plays her is Czech.
She might be...
Unless I'm wrong?
Ukrainian? I feel like
she's Ukrainian. I think the character had been living in Prague.
Yes.
I'm confusing the character with the... Okay, so Ukrainian actress playing a character born in Bulgaria who we first see in Prague.
She's Russian.
Well, sort of. We sort of first see her. Oh, she's Russian.
She's Russian,
oh, no.
Which is very patently not Ukrainian. So my apologies. Although...
Oh, no.
I have told you this. I have seen a film that was like a bunch of Ukrainian actors playing Russian people. So it's like, they're all regionally like very proximal.
There's a vampire movie, a funny comedy one with Kristen Ritter and Alicia Silverstone.
Oh,
where,
Vamps.
Yes, Vamps. Yes.
I love Vamps. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The Ukrainian stem, which is their term for original in that one, keeps accidentally being referred to as Russian, and it upsets him so much.
That must be rough.
Anyway, Nadia, played by Olga Fonda,
yes,
who is Russian. She's an interesting character. I don't really consider her existence a retcon, but it certainly feels like established history was changed. And for the better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it was a very interesting writing decision in a season with a lot of decisions that I hate. Season 5.
This is season 5. Probably the worst season of the show. Maybe the universe, at least as far as the last episode of the originals.
I think last time we spoke, I did rank the seasons, didn't I? I ranked them.
I can't remember.
I think 5 and 7 might be tied for last place. Or was it 5?
Really?
Because 7 has the heretics, right? And I do like them.
Yeah, I would understand 8.
So
7's
5 and
got
8.
something.
Yeah, I think it's 5 and 8. It might be 8 actually. I think 5 is second last. I think 8 is at the bottom.
I think the only reason I would put 8 above 5 is A, I don't remember enough about 8 to be mad.
Oh.
And B, the sirens. To be clear, not because they're narratively good or texturally good, but because they're insane. And that's at least fun.
It is fun. They are camp evil women, and we are but humble queer men. We have no choice but to stand.
We have to stand.
So, Nadia is technically introduced to us. The first time we see her is in the season 2 episode Katerina, which was one of the very first episodes I ever saw of the Vampire Diaries. In fact,
okay,
I think it is the very first episode I ever saw. What? Yes, because that's when Elena asks Caroline to, use her super vampire strength to shove the tomb door aside.
Yes.
So that she can interrogate Catherine about Klaus and, the enigma therein at the time. And Elena does this by bribing Catherine with some blood, because Catherine's been desiccating for a couple of weeks. She hands her some home comforts, which I guess might be a blanket and a change of clothes or something. And she also has a big tome from the Petrova archives, I guess, which is Catherine's family history. I don't remember where Elena gets that.
It's from our queen Vanessa Monroe, who was at Duke University.
Oh, Nora Dark.
She's the Nora Dark, the TA to Isabel Fleming, who was researching her family history and somehow found this Petrova book.
Yes. Nadia, who Isabel and Elena are descended from. We obviously learn about Elena's descent from Catherine in season 1, when it's like, oh, she was a Pierce, you were a Gilbert. It didn't make sense. Then I realized you were adopted, even though as we've said in the Elena episode,
absolutely
that itself
could
doesn't
make sense.
As I've said, just mathematically speaking, most of your ancestors
would have
a
changed
different
their
surname
name
to you. So Elena's got that ancient Petrova tome, which I think I've also mentioned would not have Petrova on it. It would probably have Petrov, as that would be what the men in the family would be called. And the book says that, the family line ended with Catherine, but obviously Elena knows that that's not true and that she must have been descended from Catherine. In season 1, Stefan tells her, Catherine must have had a child before she became a vampire, because vampires can't procreate, and therefore that is from whom Elena is descended. At the start of that episode, we have a flashback flashback to Katherine giving birth. Because she's unmarried, her father is very judgmental. It's a very sad scene where she gives birth, her mother like takes the child from her and is like, oh, it's a girl. And then Katherine, or Katerina as she was known back then, asks her mother, can I hold her? And then her father suddenly appears in the room, because of course he wasn't going to be in the room while she was giving birth. He's a man.
God, no. Men don't look at such things.
He materializes in the room and is like, hell no, we're taking this baby away. You've disgraced this family. And as we know, Katherine never sees her again.
Yeah.
And quite fortunate that her child did not stick around, because obviously, you know, we know that Klaus eventually came and slaughtered Katherine's entire
that is correct.
household 2 years later when Katherine dared to save her own life.
Oh, God, we will get to that someday.
So that is all we knew of Nadia at that point. We didn't even know her name.
No.
And then, fast forward to the start of season 5, it's post-high school. Matt has gone on a Euro trip with Rebecca.
Yep.
We see the scene and Elena's like, oh, Matt and Rebecca are in Amsterdam or maybe Prague. I'm not sure. I believe it turns out to be Prague. And they're in the middle of a threesome with a beautiful brunette woman that we've never seen before.
Fun.
She's making out with Rebecca. And I'm like, Rebecca Michelson queer? Question mark? Or is this just performative bisexuality
just to please the man? Because Matt is truly leaning back in that scene like, yes, now kiss. And it's like, all right, well,
I'm like, Rebecca, maybe if you'd gone for a woman instead of all these men you've loved over the
you'd
centuries.
be doing so much better, girl. What are we even doing here?
Later on in the episode, Matt has returned to Mystic Falls. Is he in Mystic Falls or is he at a college party? He might be at Whitmore, but he's definitely not enrolled there.
What's stopping him from attending a party if he's not enrolled, I guess?
He's at a party for college-aged people, and Rebecca shows up and is like, tee-hee, hi, Matt. I'm leaving to go be in my spin-off show, The Originals. Yeah. You should come with me. This is the last time I'm asking you.
So insane.
And Matt's like, yeah, no thanks. I thought that, you know, the last time we saw each other in Prague, you were like, that was our final goodbye. And Rebecca mentions that, oh, last time we saw each other, that street rat Nadia, Rebecca's words, not mine, that street rat Nadia stole my earrings.
So now...
And I'm like, not you being robbed during a hookup.
First of all. But also, this is the season where they introduced the travelers. So the energy already right at the beginning...
You know,
we're referring to this Eastern European woman as a street rat who stole your earrings? Get out of here.
And Matt mentions, I guess Matt is thinking, girl, you're an original. You could
buy
get
1,000 earrings.
It's giving Kim Kardashian crying because her diamond earrings fell off in the ocean.
There's people who are dying, Rebecca.
There's people who are dying. There's people who can die, Rebecca. You are immortal. And Matt is like, well, she stole my Gilbert ring. How am I going to explain to Jeremy that I lost his family heirloom?
That's crazy.
Rebecca's like, tell him you had a threesome. He'll understand. And I was like, all right.
What?
Whatever. Let's move on from this.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point, we're like, okay, we know her name. We still don't know her nature or what she's up to, or even that she'll be an important character. But I guess the Gilbert ring being missing is probably an automatic like, that's obviously important. And later on in the episode, Matt spots Nadia walking by. She's making these like coquettish eyes at him like, TV, remember me? Follow me into this dark alleyway.
Which he does.
Insane.
Oh, he's just a man. What can we do? You know?
Matt is like, yeah, you got me and my friend Rebecca drunk and then robbed us. And Nadia's like, yeah, but we were having fun before that, weren't we?
So what's the big deal?
She returns the Gilbert ring and she's like, I'm sorry, it wasn't mine to take. And then Matt's like, you traveled 4,000 miles halfway around the world to give jewelry back to a virtual stranger that you nicked it from in the first place. But this turns out to be a distraction because as she's slipping the ring back onto Matt's finger, a man comes from behind, places his hands over Matt's temples and casts a spell. And we see Matt's eyes like briefly turn solid black and then he passes out. The man's name is Gregor, although that is not revealed in this episode. In the next episode, Silas finds Matt in the woods at night. This is when Matt and Jeremy are trying to transport Katherine to a safe location. Silas is hunting her because he wants the cure that's in her blood. Silas tries to mind control Matt with his telepathic powers, commanding him to stay still and remain silent. And to his surprise, Matt is unaffected and shouts for Jeremy to run with Katherine. And Silas is like, why can't I get inside your head? Then he probes Matt's mind and sees flashes of Matt's encounter with Nadia and Gregor. And Silas is like, oh, I see. It's because someone's already in there. And I'm like, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I kept watching the scene or the episode again and again, like to see if I'd somehow missed it. And I was like, no, Matt is definitely not like actively possessed at this point. He's still in control. He seems to have no recollection of what exactly went on with Nadia and Gregor. And yet Silas addresses Gregor as he's probing Matt's mind and calls him traveler and says, why are you using this host body to watch me? And I'm like, is he though? Because it doesn't seem like Matt is being used right now, but okay.
I assume Gregor can still perceive everything. He's just not actively in control. Not that we typically get like a full description of what the experience is as a passenger or as a traveler inside a person's body, but I would assume he's getting everything that Matt's getting. He's just hiding somewhere until he gets called forward.
It's just at that point Gregor still has his own body, so I'm like, can he just like switch between his own eyes and seeing through Matt's eyes, like at will, without the...
Oh, have they not? Because I know they kill Gregor's original body.
That happens later in this episode, yeah.
Oh, then I'm not sure.
I was like, interesting mechanics that aren't explained, but that is the flavor of the show.
Maybe if it works like how Esther does it, then the only way he can get back to his own body is if they kill Matt. Like a regular way.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Because when Matt collapses at the end of the first episode, Gregor is still standing up and conscious. So it's like he's made the connection but doesn't seem to be inside Matt yet.
Yeah,
so to speak.
Interesting.
Silas doesn't get an answer, which doesn't surprise me because I don't think Gregor was in control at that point.
Yeah.
And so he snaps Matt's neck. And I was like, oh, Silas has super strength? I thought...
Yeah, that's so stupid and dumb. I've said it before. Why is he able to stake Jeremy a hunter? It's dumb.
It's silly. But much later in the episode, after a skirmish with Jeremy, Silas makes his way to a gas station mini-mart to replenish himself in the cashier's blood. And then Nadia and Gregor in his own body come in looking for Silas. Silas immediately clocks them as travelers. Gregor tells Silas that he's gonna gut him, and he pulls out this knife, and Silas mocks Gregor for having lost Matt as a host body with which to spy on him, and then he asks them what they want. Gregor says that they want to return Silas to his tomb and seal him away for all eternity. And Nadia's like, that's what the travelers have always wanted. Then she stabs Gregor in the neck, killing him.
Sure does.
Revealing to Silas that she has her own agenda. And as she does so, she's like, I've never really considered myself a traveler. And I was like, oh, okay.
Interesting. All right, then.
The Candace Owen of travelers.
Right. I mean, you assume from the beginning, but then it'll be later confirmed. She is a traveler. She's just like, and so? What about it? Don't assume solidarity of me.
In the third episode, Original Sin, Silas phones Nadia from his car, and he accuses her of faking her loyalty to him by seemingly murdering her ally Gregor. This is the first time that his name is said on screen. This is the first time we hear Gregor's name when he's already, the actor playing him is already dead. But Nadia reminds Silas that he saw Gregor bleed out and then buried the body himself. So she's like, well, of course I'm on your side. And Silas is like, yeah, but if Matt Donovan's Gilbert ring brought him back to life, then Gregor could still exist inside Matt. This ain't my first rodeo, girl.
I know this shit works. You could argue I kind of invented it. I don't know.
What is it? Do not cite the ancient magic to me, witch.
I was literally there when it was written.
And Nadia tells Silas that, okay, if Matt is alive, he could help us find Katherine Pierce, who we're both searching for. And then Silas is like, okay, fine, find Matt and find out what he knows about Katherine and then kill him permanently. And Nadia is in the Mystic Grill watching Matt work as they're having this conversation on the phone. And she's like, okay, I'll take care of it. Later on, Matt is out back behind the Mystic Grill, dumping trash. And then Nadia appears. And Matt is like, what are you up to? I remember that you and your creepy boyfriend, Gregor, did something to me the other night, but I don't quite know what. And Nadia is like, no, I was trying to keep you safe from Silas. Silas still wants you dead, and you have to trust me. And I'm like, girl, you're not making a very good case for yourself here.
Right.
You're being shady AF. You somehow know this season's villain, but you're not explaining anything.
You've already jumped me once.
But Matt is just a straight man, so he allows her to place her hands over his face, and she says I believe it's check incantation. I don't know why. This first time it didn't sound like the usual Veet. I don't know. Maybe there's different ways of saying come forth
At
in
some
that
point,
language.
she says vido instead of Veet. So maybe there's just like conjugation or like different forms.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know for sure if it's Czech, actually.
I thought that was the language the travelers spoke, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, there's no certainty.
I think Silas speaks to them in Polish at one point because Paul
Paul
Wesley can speak
Wasilewski,
Polish.
yeah.
Yes, Paweł Wasilewski. So I don't know. It's a European language that isn't from Western Europe. That's all
Right.
I know. She summons Gregor's consciousness from within Matt's mind, and as Gregor regains control of Matt's body, he's immediately hostile towards Nadia. He's like, "You slit my throat! You killed me! What the hell?"
Really not making a good case here.
And then Nadia, who at this point I'm like just queen of gaslighting people into thinking that she's on their side and they're overreacting. She's like, "No, Silas was gonna kill you anyway, and I had to do something in order to, gain Silas's trust and convince him that I'm on his side. You knew the risks of what we were up to. This is why we chose a host body that is wearing the invincibility ring, which is what she
Right.
calls the Gilbert ring." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool name for it," which might suggest that other objects like that exist in the world, but we never see any, so But
Real quick, a number of things I found looking it up. The wiki suggests that it is Czech. I believe someone in the show says it sounds like Czech or something, but that's not actually confirmed by anyone speaking the language. Someone is on Reddit here who is from, at the time they said Czech Republic. I don't know if that changed to Czechia or not. I don't know if the change to Czechia held. I can't remember where that ended up, but says that it is not Czech that they're speaking in the show.
Oof.
There's also the consideration that usually when they're doing magic in this world, they're not speaking like an actual language. There's just roots from a real language, and then they kind of garble it and jumble it. Like, they're not speaking Latin in the show. It just kind of sounds like Latin.
But what about the New Orleans vampires? That sounds sort of Frenchish.
It sounds
and I know
Frenchish.
that there is New Orleans French that wouldn't be the same as the French spoken in France. So I'm
Right,
like,
they got some
anybody's guess as to
Creoles
what that
down
is.
there. There's a whole bunch of dialects. Exactly. It's like you can just kind of do what you need to and be like, it's ish.
Then there's the Gemini witches with Invisique.
Yeah. Which is, what would that be?
I don't even know.
I guess it's also like Latin-esque as well. They also do Phesmatus Tribum, right?
Yeah, they do Phesmatos, I guess. Yeah.
They just put some stank on it, which I appreciate.
It's just the spelling of the word feels sort of Frenchish, but I guess if it was French pronunciation, it'd probably just be Invisique.
Invisique.
With the UE being silent. So they speak a nondescript, probably fictional,
Slavic,
magical
like,
European
vibing
language.
Magical language, yeah.
Nadia promises that she will make Gregor's possession of Matt's body permanent because she loves him. Then she tells him to call Elena while impersonating Matt and find out where Katherine is. Elena and Damon, with a sleeping Katherine in tow, go to a bar that Elena has been seeing in her doppelganger dreams about Stefan, where they meet a woman named Jo, and under Damon's compulsion, this woman tells them about her encounter with Stefan. Jo then pours Damon a drink, saying he looks like he could use one. However, the drink turns out to be spiked with vervain. Nadia then appears from behind the bar, pointing a gun at Damon, and at this point I'm like, oh, are we still supposed to assume that she's human? Because she's got a gun, and she hasn't done anything
vampire-esque the whole time
Yes.
she's been here. Yes, she's just some girly who's making moves, assumedly a traveler who are like magical.
She's got a gun aimed at Damon, and she's like, yeah, I told this woman to pour Damon a drink or I'd kill her. And I'm like, even that, where she's like, assumedly she threatened this woman with a gun and didn't compel her. Like, we're really supposed to believe this is a mere mortal. And then Damon is like, who the hell are you? Just as Katherine walks in. So now that Nadia is presented with two Petrova doppelgangers, she asks, which one of you is Katherine Pierce? And Katherine, true to form, immediately lies and points at Elena, and she's like, it's her! And Elena like rolls her eyes and doesn't even deny
Just like
it.
at this point, unsurprised. And Nadia's like, Katerina Petrova is a pathological liar.
But she says that she needs Katherine alive. Elena then vamp rushes Nadia and tells Katherine to run as she holds her off. But then Nadia's eyes turn bloodshot and the skin under them ripples with protruding veins, revealing that she's a vampire too. And she comments, wow, you two really do look exactly alike. And then easily tosses Elena aside.
Nice.
Before vamp speeding off to Katherine.
The only time this character will have her vampire strength mean something. Which is a shame.
Elena recovers and catches up to Katherine first in the woods, and the two speak for a bit. And then Nadia vamp speeds up behind Elena and snaps her neck. And she threateningly asks Katherine if she needs to be knocked out too. And Katherine's like, no. And refused to go quietly. Poor mortal season 5 Katherine.
Human weak, fragile Katherine.
Nadia brings Katherine to Silas, but she says she's not ready to hand Katherine over just yet. And then Silas is like, yes, your fascinating unfinished business that I don't care about. Silas is actually kind of sassy.
Listen, he's ancient Greek, he's obviously a little bit gay, so he's like...
Katherine is like, what are you guys talking about? And then Silas tries to psychically force Nadia to hand Katherine over. But elsewhere, Ketsia is performing that spell on Stefan that will incapacitate Silas's mental abilities. So Nadia does comply when Silas orders her to let go of Katherine, but then when he orders her to pull out her gun and tries to get her to shoot herself in the heart, Ketsia's spell begins to fry his mind and he sinks to the ground in pain, and Nadia finds herself free of his control and she pulls Katherine into her car so that they can flee. Later on, Nadia and Katherine are in a motel, and Nadia is just returning from bringing Katherine something to eat when she catches Katherine snooping through her bag. And Katherine's like, okay, I was trying to find a passport or an ID or some form of identification because you won't tell me who you are.
Right.
Then Silas calls Nadia and threatens to kill her if she doesn't uphold her end of the bargain and deliver Katherine to him alive. And Nadia's like, we'll see. So we're supposed to get the impression that she does not mean Katherine well at this point. She might just hurt Katherine herself. Katherine takes the phone away from Nadia and asks Silas, what do you want from me in all this? And that's when Silas tells Katherine that you, my dear, are now the cure. At which point Nadia takes the phone away from Katherine and hangs it up. At the end of the episode, Matt wakes up and is confused and surprised when Elena calls him and talks about having spoken to him earlier that day. And he's like, we spoke earlier? She's like, yeah, we spoke about protecting Katherine and finding Stefan. And Matt's like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, I remember that conversation. Wild to me that he chooses to lie. Don't know why.
There's
you live in
no
a town where every second person
this.
gets compelled.
Right. You know that if you're missing time, you've probably been compelled. Tell somebody so you can figure out who's infiltrating. Stupid.
You know that Alaric had a split evil alter ego, that he was possessed, that Rebecca was possessed.
You've been wearing that ring. There's so many reasons you should be telling people.
Gosh. After he's finished talking to Elena, he finds a knife in his pocket in this cute little ornate sheath. I feel like scabbard is for a sword.
Scabbard is for a sword, yeah. Cover, sheath, something, yeah. Holster.
Yeah, something like that. A holster for the knife.
Right.
In the 5th episode, Monsters Ball, Nadia is on the phone bickering with Silas again. They're so catty to each other, it's so much fun. She asks what he wants, because I think he's been phoning her incessantly.
Right.
And then he's like, I want Katherine. And then Nadia's like, well, I want her too. That's why I took her from you. And then she says, you can have your brown-eyed bitch of a cure for immortality when I'm done.
It's so much fun to hear the typical Vampire Diaries dialogue be delivered in an accent that has not existed in the show before. We've had the American and the British and the faux British, but to hear it in a Russian accent, I don't know, it feels so different, so visceral.
It is a lot of fun. And just the personality traits in a season where we see Katherine being taken down several pegs because now she is incredibly depowered, weak and afraid. Shades of her former personality are shining through Nadia, and it's hints as to who she might be. Although I'm pretty sure nobody saw it coming.
No, not even I certainly didn't. I was baffled.
Silas gets impatient with Nadia's nonsense, and Nadia's like, well, you're immortal, you can wait a little longer. And Silas is like, look, I honestly don't care what you need from Katherine. I'm only interested in my own goals. And Nadia's like, oh, too bad you don't have mind control anymore. You can't compel a whole town into searching for Katherine like you did 2 episodes ago. And then Silas is like, you know what? True. But I'm catching up to 21st century technology, and I now know how to track a phone call. So I've been stalling while I zero in your location. And Nadia's like, ugh.
Damn
curses.
It. Fool.
And hangs up. And Katherine, who's been idling in the background during this phone call, she's very bored. She's like, don't piss off the diabolical ones. And she also suggests that Nadia just let Silas come and take a little sip of her blood to cure himself so that we can all be on our way. And then Nadia's like, don't hand yourself over to the diabolical ones when you don't know the whole story. And she informs Katherine that Silas will have to drain her completely of her blood in order to cure himself.
False, as it turns out. So.
False, lies, hearsay.
Nonsense.
So the two of them hurry off and hit the road again before Silas can find them. Later on, in a diner, Katherine, who's been whining about being hungry the whole day, is wolfing down some food. Nadia then tells Katherine that she has been tailing her for 500 years, revealing that she is a vampire far older than the Salvatores or even Lexi. She, however, claims that she will let Katherine go if she answers some questions. And Katherine seems a bit doubtful, but she complies. And Nadia's like, okay, there was a vampire roundup in Mystic Falls back in 1864, and word on the street is that you sold out many of the vampires who were captured, including your own best friend Pearl and her daughter Annabelle. And Katherine's like, well, yes!
Your point.
Katherine justifies her actions by saying she was running from Klaus and she needed to flee solo. It's the first time that Katherine outright makes it seem like, oh, the reason why she specifically ditched Anna and Pearl along with all the other tomb vampires is that she needed to travel light. And I'm like, wow. You are so horrible.
I just needed to jettison some bags, you know. I left one of my check-ins behind. No big.
And she's like, yeah, I threw some vampires under the bus. Sue me. And then Nadia asks her, what about ripping a mother away from her daughter?
Ooh.
Having her killed for your own benefit. And Katherine's like, what are you getting at? And Nadia tells Katherine that she, Nadia, had herself turned into a vampire so that she could hunt Katherine and even out the playing field so that she could track her every move, however long it took until she found Katherine. And she says, I did this because you killed my mother. And it's like, what? Now we know. A character has been introduced who's like, oh, I'm here because I've got some old beef with a pre-existing character in this show. At the time, I was like, we've already got Damon now. We're talking about this Augustine stuff that we've never heard of before.
Yeah, what I will say, the Augustine stuff, as we've said many a times, that's whatever. That's bullshit. With Katherine, because specifically she was cured at the end of season 4, a big narrative fallout of that is that she has made many enemies over her 500 years of life who are all coming back now that the word is spreading she's human and are coming back for revenge. That makes sense. It makes sense that one of them has shown up. In fact, when we open the season, I think we see Katherine like on the run on foot because she's trying to escape people. So
Lord knows how everyone found out that she was human. I'm like, I would not be telling that shit to anybody.
Vampires
She's
talk,
also Katherine.
man.
It's not like she doesn't really keep in contact with people.
People found out the doppelganger was in town. Once you can't like cut your hair into a bad bob and disappear with vampire speed, you're very easy to find,
I guess. Also, there's always witches with their scrying.
There you go.
So Katherine looks a little bit uncomfortable at this allegation, and Nadia claims that it happened in Paris in 1645. So Katherine is like, okay, I'm going to need more details than just Paris, girl. I've been alive 500 years. I've screwed a lot of people over.
You know, and the thing they don't tell you about being immortal is that, like, that doesn't mean I can remember every single moment of my life. My memory still works the way your memory works. I just have more blanks because I have more time lived.
So Nadia tells Katherine a tale about how a woman named Lily Otoma took Katherine in when she was on the run from Klaus. But she says that when Klaus's minions showed up, Katherine pointed at Lily and said, that is Katerina Petrova. She's the one you want. And so these minions took Lily, Nadia's mother, away. At the time, I was like, wild that these minions would just believe the first person to make the allegation. It's giving Plague on rules. Katherine is then like, oh, so you were never going to let me go because you have like a vendetta against me.
Right.
And Nadia says, no, but you know, I'd hate for you to die on an empty stomach. So I was feeding you first.
Wow, generous.
As they get up to walk off, Katherine spots this old man's walking stick nearby and she quickly grabs it and stabs Nadia in the chest. Lord knows how she did that without vampire strength.
Yeah.
But she impales Nadia with this stick and then snaps off part of it.
Sound typically like pointed, you know?
Yeah,
that's
it was
crazy.
It was I do not know, but she snaps off part of it to make it harder to remove. And with Nadia weakened by the injury, Katherine is able to run out the door and get away.
Okay.
That night, Katherine finds Nadia sitting in an alley, like still struggling to remove this makeshift stake from her chest.
Oh.
And Katherine tells Nadia that she grazed her heart on purpose. And Nadia says, oh, this means that you don't want me dead, which means you still want something from me. And Katherine says, I want to know why you made up a fake story about your mother mother. And Nadia says, okay, it was a test and you failed.
Oh.
And Katherine says, no, I knew that was a fake story because by 1645, I'd been running from Klaus for a century and a half. There was no way any of his minions would have mistaken somebody else for me. Nadia, you've been tracking me for all these years and hunting me, so you apparently know how my brain works. You must have known I wouldn't fall for that fake sob story. And Nadia says, I wanted to get under your skin. And it worked because here you are. The banter between these two is so fun.
It's good. It's good. I like it.
So then Katherine leans in and pushes the stake closer to Nadia's heart, threateningly. And she's like, what kind of sick game are you playing? And Nadia says, it's not a game. You really did kill my mother. Only it wasn't in Paris. It was in a little cottage in England. And it wasn't 1645. It was April 6th, 1492. Nadia says of her mother, she was all alone, exiled by her family 2 years earlier. You stuck her head in a noose, pushed her off the chair, and snapped her neck. Realizing that Nadia is describing her own suicide, Katherine is like, wait a minute, who are you? And Nadia replies, my name is Nadia Petrova, and you are my mother.
Oh.
And it was like, whoa, mic drop.
Yeah.
Twist. It was like, yeah, a character who we knew definitely existed at some point, but who we certainly thought was long dead.
Never thought twice. We were told the baby was sent away, and then that was that. But it all tracks to be like, yeah, you could find a vampire, as Katherine did, and turn yourself.
Sometime later, Nadia wakes up in a motel, or whatever. I'm not sure where they are, with Katherine. The stake has been removed and her wound is healed, and Katherine tells Nadia that Silas won't drink the cure from her until he's gotten rid of the other side. So she has a little bit of time. She asks Nadia, where were you in 1498? And Nadia's like, I don't know, I was 8. Why? And then Katherine tells her that by 1498, she had returned to Bulgaria, a vampire on the run from Klaus. Presumably this is after she discovered that Klaus had slaughtered her family. And she tells Nadia she went from village to village searching for her. And Nadia is absolutely floored by this. And she's like, you came back for me? And Katherine says, yes, I came back for you. And she hands Nadia a drink and she says, it's nice to meet you.
Aww.
And Nadia accepts the drink tearfully. And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, Katherine has a soul.
Katherine has a soul. This is her daughter who's right at the beginning of a story, the beginning of the end for her. It's like, this is kind of sweet. What?
At the end of the episode. Katherine, without Nadia, returns to Chez Salvatore and Damon feeds her to Silas.
Yeah, that sure happens. That certainly is what transpires.
And she survives this because either Silas did not need to drain all her blood, or the Vampire Diaries writers think that a human being can survive exsanguination.
Katherine's got survival magic. She learned it very early in her life.
Utter nonsense. In episode 7, Death and the Maiden, Nadia finds Caroline, who's leaving voicemails for her friend / flirtationship Jessie, and tells her she's looking for Katherine. Caroline has no idea who this is, by the way.
She's like, what are you? You don't even know me. Why are you talking to me?
Katherine walks in just as Caroline and Nadia are getting catty with each other. Katherine seems exasperated to see Nadia, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this relationship is not going so well.
Immediately the goodwill has expired? What's happening?
And Caroline's like, how do you two know each other? And before Nadia can inform Caroline of her relation to Katherine, Catherine's like, oh, Nadia's my stylist. She does my hair. And Caroline's like, okay, whatever. And she
don't
leaves.
super care.
Katherine then asks Nadia what she wants, and Nadia accuses Katherine of avoiding her, and she's like, sit down. And then Katherine says, I'm busy, and she tries to walk away, and then Nadia grabs Catherine's arm and flashes her vampire eyes, and she's like, sit! As Nadia and Katherine get to talking, she tells Katherine, the two of us shared a moment, there was a bond, and then nothing. You abandoned me all over again. And then Katherine says, I didn't abandon you when you were born. You were snatched out of my arms at birth because my father thought I was a knocked up, shameful slut.
Yeah.
Those are Catherine's words.
Patriarchy.
And just purity culture and ugh. Katherine also asks if they really had to do this whole mother-daughter bonding thing after 500 years. And she's like, estrangement is so much easier. And I'm like, Katherine, really?
Struggling with that maternal bone.
The long-lived characters in this show with the exception of Stefan, who he can always find love in his heart for Damon. They are so emotionally damaged that even when a family member is like giving them an olive branch, like trying to mend fences, they find it so impossible to just swallow that pride and just be like, okay, here's someone who wants to care about me. I don't have to be evil around this person.
Like, God, let me try. Let me trying to forge this bond.
Caroline then shows up to collect Katherine for Ketsia's triple doppelganger fueled spell. As Katherine gets up to leave, Nadia's like, we're not done. And Katherine's like, oh, yes, we are.
Oh, God.
At the end of the episode, Nadia shows up telling Katherine that she is returning to Prague. She's packed Katherine's bag for her, and she's like, I'd really like it if you came with me. We can go to Bulgaria and retrace our lives. We can go anywhere you want. And Katherine's like, no thanks. Whatever twisted fantasy you have about us, that's all it's ever going to be, a fantasy, because I would rather rip out my own heart than do any more mother-daughter bonding with you. And I'm like, damn, Katherine, jeez, there's no need for this. But even though Nadia looks gutted at this, Katherine insists that she's doing her a favor because she can't be there for her. She doesn't explain to Nadia that she's currently dying, and I think that is what has now...
That's why she's trying to white wolf her.
Yeah, she doesn't explain that's what spurred this sudden need for distance. She's just like, go away, I don't want you. And I'm like, all right. That rarely ever works well for characters. No. But Katherine says to Nadia, take a good look, because you are never going to see me again. Next episode, Katherine is drinking in a bar with Stefan and commiserating their current issues. And Nadia shows up, having received a call from Katherine earlier. Nadia is surprised that Katherine wants to see her again after their last convo. And Katherine introduces Nadia to Stefan and says, this is my daughter. And I'm like, oh, look at you telling people. Cute. She's not hiding it anymore. The smallest baby step, I guess.
Right.
And the three of them go to the Mystic Grill to find Matt, who I think they've called before they got there, because he shows up and presents them with the traveler's knife that Gregor left in his pocket. Nadia is reluctant, saying, this is ridiculous. But at Katherine's insistence, she brings Gregor forth from Matt's mind so they can interrogate him. This is the first time that Stefan sees the traveler incantation in action. He's like, what's going on here? And Katherine's like, oh, Nadia is calling on Matt's passenger, which I think is the first time they use that term. As Gregor takes control, Katherine introduces herself to Gregor and asks what the real reasons for his presence in Mystic Falls is. It's funny,
what are your intentions with my daughter?
Yeah, she half-jokingly presents herself as the suspicious mother who's like skeptical of her daughter's boyfriend's plans. She's like, she's my only child, so naturally I'm suspicious of anyone who wants to date her.
You just met her last week, Kathy. What's going on?
Like, you just disowned her last episode.
Right. Your daughter is as old as you are.
On that point, when Stefan realizes that they are mother and child, he asks, and I can only assume he's asking about, their physical age, because obviously Nadia would be younger than Katherine chronologically, but he asks, out of morbid curiosity, which of you is younger? And in unison, both women are like, I am. And Stefan just sighs. And I'm like, hey, I believe Katherine is 17, so Nadia would have to be 17 as well to be younger than her. And I don't think she's meant to be 17.
I don't think so. No, she's like physically they both are like grown women, but we're still pretending that Elena and Katherine are like very, very young.
Yeah.
So physically, I think Katherine is younger. Chronologically, Nadia is younger, so both of them are correct.
Maybe Nadia misunderstood the question, because I'm like, yeah, Stefan was just told that you
I think it's also just like a joke of like, oh, women in age, so it's a whole there's a whole other layer to that I actually don't like, but I think it's funny that
silly joke.
The garden path sentence of it is funny, yeah.
Gregor claims that his purpose here is to track and kill Silas. Katherine calls his bluff and shows him that they have his knife and asks, if this has anything to do with the reason you're here. And Gregor's like, how did you get that? But Stefan, who at this he's in his like no memory era here after getting his brain fried Silas's psychic powers, he's very impatient. He's like, I don't have time for this, and he pushes Gregor to just answer Katherine's questions. And Katherine unsheaths the knife and places it against
no, he's got his memories back at this point.
Oh, does he?
If he's hanging out with Katherine, that means he has his memories back, because he's in his PTSD
because
era.
yes, the PTSD is back. That's why he's impatient. And Gregor confesses that he was instructed to kill Katherine once Silas had taken the cure and was dead. And Nadia seems genuinely stunned at the revelation that Gregor was actually using her to get to Katherine. And she's like, why would you want to kill Katherine? And Gregor's like, listen, The travelers want her dead. I'm following orders. I do not know. I don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Not my place. Katherine just sneers that, see, this is exactly why I didn't want you dating my daughter. Because travelers are ruthless, manipulative hypocrites. Katherine then reveals that her own father was a traveler.
Yeah.
And then she stabs McGregor with the traveler's knife, causing him to collapse. And Stefan is like, what have you done? And Catherine's like, no, Matt will be fine.
Yeah.
But she explains that Gregor's spirit has been permanently expelled from Matt's body because that is the purpose and function of the knife. This also appears to be news to Nadia.
So really, like, Nadia was just... it's so crazy.
It's like, girls, do you know about your culture?
One, and two, it's just like the number of female characters that are presented to be like in control and with power, only for like episodes later it turns out, oh, actually you're just kind of like a fool in all of this. And also the moment that it's revealed she's Catherine's daughter, she's now attached at the hip to Katherine and so beholden to this woman's whims that Nadia doesn't have anything to do other than like claw and plead and beg for Katherine to spend like 5 minutes with her, you know?
It's a shame that Nadia shows up as this conniving, manipulative, scheming character, it seems. And then it's like, oh no, she's just here for mommy issues, which aren't invalid.
No, of course not.
But then she just becomes like a supporting character in Catherine's storyline for this season.
Exactly. Which, alas.
She certainly gets a lot to do.
Yeah.
Later on, Katherine and Stefan have finished speaking about his PTSD, and Nadia joins them outside and confirms that, yes, Gregor is truly dead. She seems rather upset.
Yeah. That was
about
still
her
her
mother
BB.
killing her boyfriend.
Like, obviously, he was
like,
screwing her over.
He was using you.
Yeah, but, you know.
He was using you were using him. I'm like, girl.
That's just kind of what it was. You know, we were fools in love.
Katherine, however, insists that Nadia deserves better. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Suddenly, the maternal instinct flares up in you. Doesn't last because Nadia simply tells her rotten hell and walks off. Later on, Katherine leaves a suicide note for Stefan to find. The note is intended for Nadia, and Katherine attempts to jump to her death to avoid dying of rapid old age, but Stefan catches her and saves her life and convinces her to, try and fight to survive because she's Katherine Pierce. And that is her shtick.
Yeah.
In 50 Shades of Grayson, so much context for what I'm about to say, but it will be addressed in Stefan and Catherine's episodes.
Okay.
Post-sex with Stefan.
All right.
Katherine...
Cool.
Katherine hires Matt to be her personal trainer, intent on getting into shape as much as her rapidly deteriorating human body will allow. As the two of them are talking in the woods, Nadia comes up to them, having been summoned by Matt. Nadia is quite peeved. She's holding a letter, the letter that Katherine left for her.
Yeah.
And she reads out the first couple of lines, and she's like, "Dear Nadia, I'm sorry I had to kill your boyfriend, but it was the motherly thing to do. Suicide, however, not very motherly of me." And Katherine notes that, Stefan must have given you that suicide note I left for you. But she's very cavalier about the whole thing.
She's like, I'm so over it at this point. We're like 2 days post-suicide. Like, why are you making it a big deal?
And then Nadia puss claps her.
Oh.
She slaps her across the face so hard that it knocks Catherine's head to the side.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Earned. Even Matt, who's watching, is like, damn.
Matt, what are you still doing here? Let these people speak in private. Like,
Nadia tells Katherine, that's for trying to kill yourself without saying goodbye.
If it was anyone but Katherine, I'd be like, wow, okay, calm down.
Later on at Chez Salvatore, Nadia and Katherine talk, and Nadia jokes that, yeah, if I were living here, I would have killed myself too. And I'm like, Nadia Gen Z? Katherine is like, no, that was a moment of weakness, I assure you. I changed my mind. I don't want to die anymore. And Nadia's like, yeah, in a moment of weakness, you eat chocolate or kiss the wrong boy. You don't jump off a clock tower.
This dynamic, I swear.
And Katherine is like, no, I do want to live. She insists she wants to survive, and she asks Nadia if, after all the horrible things that she, Katherine, has done, is it possible she could be forgiven? And Nadia smiles, and you can almost see the halo of hopefulness around her. And she's like, oh my gosh, my mom wants my forgiveness. And she's like, that's why I'm here. I have an idea that might save you. The next time we cut back to them, Nadia has explained that she wants to transfer Catherine's spirit into a host body to prolong her life. And Catherine's like, that's silly. And Nadia's like, no, Katherine, your father was a traveler.
Right.
So you're also a traveler.
So
We
you
just need to
can
find
do the
someone
thing.
to teach you the passenger spell. And Catherine's like, no, I never learned how to do traveler magic because my father forbade it during my human upbringing. And then I became a vampire and I neither had access to this magic nor any need for it. So I never learned. And Nadia's like, well, your heritage will be enough for the magic to work. And she explains that because Gregor passengered into Matt, he was able to keep living on in Matt's body when his own body was killed. And Catherine's like, yeah, but I don't want to live on in someone else's form because I'm vain enough that I'm reluctant to leave my own body behind, even to escape
like
death.
young and hot here, you know? Like, I can't just throw that away. Come on.
She's like, this body is rapidly falling apart, aging.
She's got gray hair. Her tooth
unnatural
fell out
pace.
the other episode. Like,
she's losing her sight and her hearing, but
You
she's
know.
like, but I don't want to be somebody else. Also, Stefan is physically attracted to
Stefan
my
loves
current
this
massage.
body.
And then Nadia's like, oh, so your newfound desire to live and seek out forgiveness is about Stefan.
Not
and
me,
not me.
your daughter, long lost, now
Okay.
returned. Got it.
She looks so crushed. Catherine, not reading the room at all, doesn't even realize how Nadia's feeling. And she's like, yeah, if I'm going to die, doing so with the knowledge that Stefan still cares about me might not be so bad. And then Nadia's like, no, you had it right the first time. Go kill yourself. See if anyone misses you. And she gets up and leaves.
God.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm surprised. I guess it shows how many people weren't really on the wagon at this stage of Vampire Diaries. I'm surprised that clip of Nadia saying, go kill yourself.
Hasn't made the rounds.
Yeah, has not become like a Twitter reaction. So that night, Nadia speaks to Matt as he's closing up the grill. And she tries to reminisce about how they met in Europe, but Matt is uninterested and simply wants to put their whole little thing behind them. So Nadia concedes, but she asks Matt to hold on to the traveler's knife for her because she's leaving Mystic Falls and she wants to know it's safe. She admits that she was wrong about thinking that she could convince Catherine to stay alive, but she says, you know, Catherine might change her mind, and if she does, she will need the knife. And Matt's like, girl, Catherine will not change her mind because she only cares about herself. She's not going to do something unless it's what she herself wants. And Nadia laments that she searched for her mother for 5 centuries only to be faced with losing her all over again.
Yeah.
And she says she doesn't know if she should hate Catherine for giving her up or be at her side when she dies. And I'm like, yeah, parental trauma is a recurring theme in this show where it's like, ugh.
Especially when your parents are long lived. So many people are like abandoned by their parents or don't get to know their parents growing up, or their parents are brought back from the dead, and that's a whole thing. Like the Esthers and the Lilies and the Abby Bennett Wilsons, all mothers apparently are just like to be fair, the fathers all suck too. They're just all dead and we don't need to worry about that.
Yes. It's nice because Nadia and Matt have this moment of like, you know, commiserating because Matt sits down and he tells her he relates to her mommy issues, citing Kelly Donovan's alcohol abuse and how she never cared about how her behavior affected. Yeah. How do we forget that one?
The one who began it all. And a dad who's a deadbeat and you don't have to care about him.
Nadia is like tearing up at this point and she says, okay, well then Matt must know what it's like to hold on to the hope that maybe just once your mother will do what you want. So Matt, feeling sorry for her, takes her hand and promises to hold on to the knife if Catherine changes her mind. Catherine speaks to Stefan at the end of the episode, and while he is sorry that she's dying, she realizes that redemption or no, Stefan will never love her the way that he loved Elena.
Sorry.
After this, she rings Nadia and she's like, okay, find the traveler to teach me the passenger spell. I've decided that I want to live. It is my brand after all. Then she has a heart attack.
Yeah.
And the episode ends.
God, what a wild concept. What a wild thing to hear. Katherine Pierce had a heart attack.
The evil heart in her now human body just couldn't deal with the emotions that Stefan and Nadia were making her feel. It was like, oh no, there's too much human feeling happening here now. Her heart gave out. In the next episode, Katherine is in hospital. She's being resuscitated. The doctors do manage to save her life for the time being, but as Nadia shows up to find Stefan already there, Stefan's like, yeah, Katherine's dying because all her organs are failing.
Right.
He tells Nadia he's compelled the doctors to let him take Katherine home, but warns Nadia that Katherine probably won't survive the rest of the day. This is the episode where everyone's like toasting to Katherine's impending doom, and Damon is like mentally torturing her with all these visions.
Yep.
Nadia goes to see Matt at work, and she knocks him out and shows up at Chez Salvatore and tells him that she's kidnapped Matt and buried him alive in that big safe without his Gilbert ring. She blackmails the group into helping her save Katherine with the passenger spell. Elena and Stefan are the ones who volunteered to go off and help Nadia, which she claims she figured they would do.
Which
and I'm
like
quite a gamble.
Big ass
because
gamble.
As it turns out,
those are the exact two she needed.
Exact two people she needed.
This is not...
Elena says that she cannot understand why Nadia would want to save her mother, especially after she murdered her boyfriend. And Stefan's like, well, you know, Katherine was protecting Nadia when she killed Gregor. And I'm like, not Stefan being on Team Katherine this season. What is happening? Elena is reluctant to allow Katherine to live on by possessing an innocent person. And Nadia's like, no, I'm going to allow Katherine to passenger inside me.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, the sacrifices you would make for this woman.
There's a whole complex there. It's crazy.
Like, you're going to give up your life and your body for your mother. And she's like, I'm going to keep her close by my side forever because for 500 years, I didn't have her.
God. And then presumably they would live on forever if they succeeded in doing that. It would just be the two of them sharing a body for eternity, which one sounds like a nightmare, but that's not my business. Nadia's a grown-ass woman. But two, it's like, how are we setting the schedule? You know? Like, what's the plan?
Also, who's going to bring Katherine? Can you bring someone forth on your own? Are you going to have to like make a little voice note?
Right.
Of the come forth incantation?
Maybe they were hoping to find another traveler to like be their companion, and then that's how they'd figure it out. I don't know.
A new traveler boyfriend, perhaps. Nadia, Stefan, and Elena go to this traveler named Mia, holed up in a shack. That's when Nadia's like, oh, travelers are hard to find because they're always on the move, but their services can be bought. Surprise!
Yeah.
You are my bargaining chips. And she grabs Mia and vamp speeds away, leaving Stefan and Elena with the rest of the travelers in the vicinity. Later on, as Damon is telepathically torturing a dying Katherine, and Damon's like, no one's coming to say goodbye, Katherine, because no one cares. And suddenly, Nadia is behind him and snaps his neck, and she's like, I do.
Oh, sweetie.
She's brought Mia with her, and the two of them instruct Katherine on how to do the passenger spell and how it will work. But Katherine is like, Mia, a moment alone with my daughter. And in private, she tells Nadia, look, girl, I'm not about to do this. You were taken away from me when I was a young girl and you were just a baby. And yeah, I will admit that the trauma of that affected me in a way in which I turned into the kind of person who would never let anything be taken away from her ever again.
Yeah.
But because of that, I became a survivor and I lived a good, long, full life for 500 years. And now it's your turn to live. I can't be selfish with you. Let me do the right thing for once. Nadia, I think she is touched by this, but she's also angry. She's like tearing up and she says, fine, but I won't sit by your side and watch you die. And she leaves. And yet, even though this is all the conversation we see them having,
right,
at the end of the episode, Katherine passengers into Elena. She wakes up a little while later. Nadia calls her, and when she answers the phone, Nadia's like, "Veet," over the phone, and Katherine is then able to possess Elena, and she's like, "Tee-hee, our plan worked." And Nadia's like, "Okay, cool, so it worked." And I'm like, "Wait, when did you arrange this?"
Maybe she went into her mind. I don't know. Maybe they were on a call earlier. I assume that conversation was staged so the vampires in the house could hear that happen and assume that Katherine died peacefully.
Maybe. I'm not even sure who was there at that point.
Maybe they coordinated while they were bringing Katherine back to the Salvatore house to rest. Maybe that was always the plan.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't put it past Katherine. You know, Miss Plan B.
Always
Plan C if that doesn't
ahead.
work.
Yeah.
Episode 12, The Devil Inside. This is the episode in which Katherine is possessing Elena's body on and off. Katherine meets up with Matt, impersonating Elena. She immediately reveals that she's not Elena, but that she needs Matt to tell her everything that she needs to know about Elena. And she compels him, obviously, not to reveal this secret. Nadia, in this episode, asks for Catherine's body. She pretends that it's because I need to bury my mother. But it's actually because she wants to perform a spell in which they will burn away Catherine's real body and permanently passenger her inside Elena.
Yeah.
We do get flashbacks to seeing why it is that Katherine is like, oh, I need Matt here to give me my spark notes on the life of Elena.
Yes.
Because Nadia's like, Elena is going to turn up and take over the body. Even if we make the transfer permanent, you will need to be impersonating Elena full time. And Catherine's like, I've been impersonating this girl since the end of season 1. What are you talking about? And Nadia's like, no, you have to become her now. You're going to have to play this role forever.
It's no longer faking it for 10 minutes. This is gonna be it.
So yeah, long story short, they do eventually manage to get Catherine's body back. They take it to a tomb where she finds Nadia with a traveler who will cast the spell. The traveler starts the process and Elena takes over and starts to see what is happening. Elena attacks the traveler and then runs away. And I'm like, Elena, I know you don't like to take lives, but sometimes a neck snap is all it takes.
She jabbed Nadia good, though, with that enormous, I think it was a torch that was standing nearby for magic purposes. She snaps it and runs it through Nadia.
Even though Elena has run away, Nadia tells the passenger to finish the spell anyway, and she does. Just as Elena reaches Damon, Katherine takes over complete control of Elena's body. She later on gets a phone call from Nadia, and Nadia's like, okay, well, did it work? And she's like, yes, I'm Katherine Pierce. I survived. So Nadia is like, cool, let's leave. Let's get the hell out of Dodge. You've saved your life now. Let's go. Catherine's like, no. The whole point of learning to be Elena permanently is because I'm going to be Elena. I want Stefan back.
Right.
I'm gonna date him while pretending to be someone else.
Town life.
Because I'm insane. God. And Nadia's like, oh God, this
now
woman.
I've got to deal with this. I could be in Prague right now.
The remainder of the season is now just this sitcom of Katherine pretending to be Elena.
Now Nadia reluctantly squeezing Matt to give her information, making sure that they've got everything covered. It's a nightmare. She's Noah Galvin in theater camp, running behind the scenes, making sure all the tech stuff is good, while the insane actors on stage are just doing some dumb shit.
Oh, it's wild. The next episode is where Tyler starts to get suspicious about all this time that Nadia is spending around Matt, because Matt is just being compelled to forget everything, and Tyler's like,
what's going on?
And Matt's like, no, she's just Catherine's sad daughter who's mourning her mother who's definitely dead. And, I have a thing for women several times my age who could kill me with a snap of their
right, that's my
wrist.
kink, actually.
Is this where Katherine is trying to get Stefan to kill Damon, or is that the next episode?
I don't know. These three sort of blur together as the period where Katherine was possessing Elena for me. That's all I've got. But I know that for Nadia, at the very least, the key thing is that Tyler and then Caroline are starting to be suspicious of all the time she's spending with Matt. And then she's trying to play it off. There's a period of time where she's just holding Matt hostage and she's like, listen, game to game, you've got to help me convince your friends that everything's fine. Otherwise, I'm killing you and then I'm running with your best friend. So,
I mean, her methods are mostly effective. She learns enough about the Mystic Falls gang to be able to even school Katherine on people that Katherine has known for years.
Yes.
Because when Jeremy gets taken, Katherine's like, oh, this could work out. If Jeremy dies and I'm Elena mourning my little brother, that could be a segue into getting into Stefan's good books. Because obviously Stefan and Elena have been broken up for a while now.
Right.
Nadia's like, are you insane? Elena Gilbert would do everything in her power to save her brother's life. Right. There is no way she would let Jeremy die. And Catherine's like,
that's the strength of Nadia, is that she has all the wiles of Katherine, but none of the insanity. None of the absolute insane nonsense where Catherine's like, I'm going to stay because I'm still after Stefan after all this time. And I'm about to blow my whole shit because I'm trying to think of how I can convince him to love me again. Crazy. Nadia's just there girl, this is stupid.
Nadia does strong arm Matt into telling his friends that no, Everything's fine. I'm definitely not compelled.
Not compelled. Listen, we were just hanging out. There was some confusion. Does that text Matt has sent off that's like, help, it's K or something like that? Or it might have just been K.
That happens afterwards because of Nadia spending time with Matt. Matt hears her talking on the phone to Elena, and he's like, I know that's not Elena. Exactly. Is Katherine a passenger in Elena's body? And Nadia's like, shut up. You're not part of this plot.
So I guess she's a lot more like Katherine than I thought, because her big, like, blind spot, her weakness is Matt, who she seems to genuinely be fond of. So that's a whole thing.
I don't know what is with these immortal, ruthless women and liking Matt.
Matt's got it going on, man. Like, they want that Donovan. I said this about Rebecca a while back.
They're like, after all the years we've lived and the enemies we faced, there's something about a man who I could easily kill with my bare hands.
Just a weak, kind of pathetic man who's nice to look at. I'm really into that right now. That's my era.
And who's relatively sweet, because let's be honest, the bar is in hell for these women.
That is what it is. It's like after all these other vampire men who all suck, it's just like you want a little sweetness in your life. Because she tells him straight up, no compulsion. Listen, obviously I've been compelling you this whole time. Obviously I'm helping my mom possess your friend. And Matt's like, that sucks, man. The situation's rough for you. But, like, Matt's also, like, trying to play her a little bit, but he genuinely is, like, sorry for her in this situation. So, I get it. He's nice. I think it might be the end of episode 14 or 15. They finally put together, it's after Katherine tries to mac on Stefan and then try to get Stefan to kill Damon, that Stefan goes, hold on, something's weird about Elena. And Caroline has seen the text and is telling him about all the weird stuff with Matt and Nadia. And then when she tells him about the text and it's Kay, they're like, wait, Kay? Katherine? Oh, we see what's happened. They've passengered Katherine into Elena. She's possessing Elena. Everything makes sense. All the weirdness around Elena, it's actually been Katherine this whole time.
Katherine doesn't know they figured it out yet, and she thinks everything's going along swimmingly. She's like, oh yeah, I might have almost gotten Stefan to kill Damon. It failed, but I think Stefan and I had a moment, and it's working out fine. And Nadia, meanwhile, has had an altercation with Tyler, who was coming to save Matt from her. That was when he's like, young hybrid beats old vampire.
Right.
And he snaps at her with his hybrid teeth, and he manages to get a nip on her. Yeah. So Nadia is sitting at the table looking very dejected. It's like, she's so over her mother's nonsense. She's like, yay, I love that I have put myself through hell and been envenomated in order to help you, my mother, and you're sitting here talking about your ridiculous love for this man who you are essentially planning to sexually assault.
I mean,
which you've already done to him.
If we're being real about it, if we're keeping it a bug.
This child who just wants her mother to love her and to just give a damn about her the way that she cares about her, and she's just like, wow, I can see where your priorities lie. It's the Stefan of it all.
And now I'm gonna die.
Catherine clocks that Nadia is looking sulky, and she's like, look, I'm in a good mood, so I don't have time for whatever it is that you're pouting about. And I was like, Katherine Pierce, POC mother, was like, you better fix your face before I fix it for you.
Listen, she's a Chuck's looks, so we should expect. Oh, it's a nightmare. Oh, it's a nightmare. Mother of the half millennium.
Nadia's like, well, I won't be killing your buzz for much longer because Tyler Lockwood bit me, so I'll be dead soon. So, yeah. And Catherine's like, oh, I have kind of been an asshole. All right. That leads into the era of the Mystic Falls gang trying to get her back and her being like, they're a little too enthusiastic. They all keep phoning me. I'm on my own side here trying to like find a cure for werewolf venom. I think she goes to Dr. Maxfield and tries to find one, but by then he might already be dead.
Right.
She and Nadia, like, they lock eyes and they're like, they know.
There was a lot of she knows. They know. She knows we know.
It really feels like a plot that would have been stretched out over more episodes, but the writers were like, it's fine.
Let's get it over
with. People should all be smarter than this by now. They figure out each other's tells. Tyler is the one that tells the group that, oh, well, I bit Nadia. So Katherine is probably with her because she's not long for this world. She is going to die. And they're like, oh, okay, so she can't be on the run with this sickly vampire, apparently. She must be somewhere nearby. We will close in and get her. Katherine is still like frantically trying to stall for time. She insists that no, Wes will get here and he'll find a cure. Eventually Nadia's like, there's only one cure that exists, mother. That is Klaus's blood.
And unless you're gonna go up against him
and beg him to save me. Eventually Stefan is like, okay, Katherine, I'm just gonna phone you and talk to you as Katherine. I know that you know that we know. At this point, they've kidnapped Nadia, who I guess Katherine left unattended. And he's like, you can run away like you always do, or you can come and say goodbye to the only person in the world who gives a damn about you. So Katherine shows up at Chez Salvatore, and they let her in to say goodbye to Nadia. Nadia has been feverish the whole day. At the start of the episode, she had, the typical werewolf venom hallucinations. She hallucinated like olden times. She was looking for Katherine. She's like, I'm looking for Katherine Pierce. She abandoned her. Does she say Katherine Pierce or Katerina Petrova? I'm not sure. I think she tended to refer to her mother by her birth name, which is interesting because by then Katherine had a legacy. But it's like when she was speaking to Katherine, she tended to call her Katherine Pierce.
Because she considers them different people. She's like, Katherine Pierce killed my mother, Katerina Petrova, you know?
Which is fair. In many ways, she did. You see through the flashbacks that she spent her life feeling that her mother abandoned her and that her mother was this selfish, evil, horrible person, which I'm like, well, not untrue on the second part there. She didn't abandon you, but she certainly did not evolve into the best person as she hallucinates one last time. Well, first she hallucinates that Matt is Gregor. Matt is sweet to her. He comforts her and it's like, oh, how nice of you, Matt. Sweetie.
He puts on the accent just to make her feel better.
The accent is such a choice.
She pats him on the shoulder and she's like, no, Matt, this is a hate crime, please.
Katherine eventually is there and she's like, Nadia, it's me, your mother. I'm here. And Nadia's like, no, my mother wouldn't be here. Katherine Pierce is horrible. She betrays everyone who trusts her. She abandoned me. She's a monster. And Katherine is like, no, I'm not a monster. I am here. I promise you, my child. I love you and I am with you. She apologizes for the things that she's done and the person that she is. And it is a sweet moment of, I think, Katherine realizing that, like, seeing herself as she truly is through Nadia's eyes, the eyes of a person who was truly prepared to love her for who she was, but was like, damn, you even hurt me. Like,
and the fact that, like, she finally realizes I've had my eyes like looking everywhere except for what was right in front of me, because the fisherman from the Aesop's tale, right? I went for the fish in the water when I had a fish in my hand. I think that's how that story goes. I actually don't remember the Aesop fables very well. But maybe that was the dog, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. God, now I have to go back and read the Aesop's fables. Anyway.
I'm not familiar with that one, but I think we can all relate to either ourselves or somebody else we know not being aware of the value of someone who actually cares about them or something that was actually important because they were focused on something else.
Always reaching for the unattainable.
It is wild to me that this season Katherine reveals that she's still in love with Stefan, because all the time before that it was mainly like her working plans and trying to survive. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, now that the dust is settled and I'm alive, I want Stefan. It's like,
when a man catches you as you jump off a clock tower to your death and looks into your eyes and tells you you're a survivor, now act like it. Are you not gonna like tuck your hair behind your ear a little bit? Come on.
I guess that's fair. But yeah, Nadia dies. I must point out, she is famous for being the first vampire in this universe to die on screen of a werewolf bite, because they were either euthanized or cured. Most of them cured. So she's the first one who we actually see die from it. And it's like, oh, what a shame. It factors into Katherine's decision to get her last licks in against the Mystic Falls gang. I do appreciate that at the end of Nadia's life, Katherine could appreciate that, wow, this was really somebody in my corner. And yeah, fate pulled us apart, but I was dealt an amazing hand at the fact that, here was this girl who was not only a vampire who had spent years searching for me and was alive, but was willing to mend fences, have a relationship, save my life, and I kind of just spat in the face of all of that until it was too late.
Consistently the whole time, every day of the time she knew her. She's fun, especially very early on. And then, like I said, once the reveal happens, she's at the whims of Katherine, which is very unfortunate. I do enjoy how much she twists Matt around her finger in the back half. It's a shame, but it is kind of funny to be like, she's like coordinating the whole ruse to make sure her mom is happy. And then she's got Matt sitting next to her all doe-eyed. She's like, and what do I do with you? God damn it. It's really fun.
Also, I gotta say, Olga, the actress who plays her,
Yes.
very well cast as someone who could be related by blood to Nina Dobrev.
Yeah.
Like the skin tone, the eye shape, the hair color, the eye color. It's
It
definitely
all
like,
fits.
oh yeah. It's interesting that she doesn't have a lot of moments with Elena, who is her descendant. I guess she does not care about that.
Yeah, I don't think she likes Elena that much, is the thing.
I guess she's like, you have the face of my trauma personified. So I understand.
And you're not even my mother, so it's like I don't hold any affection for you. So actually, you're gonna be the vessel for all that trauma and all that hatred. There's that moment when Elena wakes up and plays it cool and then goes and attacks the traveler. And then when Nadia realizes it's her, she goes, Elena, with such venom in her voice. And it's like, damn,
You
bitch,
love that line.
you don't even know her like that. Why are you mad?
You know what? If I could just get Freudian for a second, if I were Nadia, I would hate Elena. I would say, you know what? This mother of mine has spent far more time hating you than she's
loving
ever spent
me.
giving a damn about me.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, no, it tracks. It tracks. But yeah, I do love that delivery of like, Elena. So much fun.
I found her disdain for Elena interesting because the show suggests that one of the reasons why Isabel was one of the few people in the universe that Catherine cared about enough to not just screw over is because it was like, oh, my descendant.
My relation. I got no further thoughts on Miss Girl.
That's it for Nadia Petrova. If you have any questions or thoughts, you can mail us at animalattackpod@gmail.com. You can tweet us at animattackpod. That's at ANIM Attack Pod on Twitter. And you'll find our link tree in the bio, which has all of our online stuff. Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Cheers.